Welcome back to Robots v Vampires. I'm Adrian Smith, and I'm really excited to jump into another one of these fantastical tales with you.
And I'm Julia Jones, always excited to join you for these deep dives into the world of sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah, it's amazing how these stories blend sci-fi and fantasy in ways you never see coming.
Right. It's like they take those classic tropes and turn them on their head. So, what unexpected twist are we uncovering today?
Okay, so our source material this time drops us right into a high-stakes meeting, and we're in this grand, dimly lit hall.
Ooh, setting the mood already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on one side we have Princess Anya, she's a vampire noble, and on the other side we have this delegation of human leaders.
So we've got vampires and humans in the same room. That already sounds like a recipe for tension.
Oh, absolutely. And the sources make it clear that this isn't just any meeting. They're all gathered around this orrery. It's a model of the solar system.
Oh, I love those. So intricate.
Yeah, and the miniature sun at the center, it's flickering and dimming like it's on the verge of going out.
Wow, that's a powerful visual. It really sets the stage for something dire. What's going on? What's the big threat here?
Well, both vampires and humans are facing extinction. The sun is dying and is throwing everything out of whack.
Okay, so that explains the dimming sun in the orrery. But how does a dying sun threaten both vampires and humans? I mean, aren't vampires supposed to thrive in darkness?
You'd think so, right? But it turns out that this dying sun, it's causing a chain reaction.
Mm.
Humanity's facing starvation, crops are failing, the nights are getting longer and colder, and there are creatures, things that thrive in the darkness. They're becoming more aggressive, more dangerous.
Okay, so humans are facing a double threat, starvation and these creatures of the night. But what about the vampires? How are they affected?
Well, for vampires, it's their food source that's disappearing as the human population dwindles. Plus, they're losing their strength. They're becoming more vulnerable as the sun weakens.
So both sides are in a really desperate situation, and now they're forced to face it together.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because it kind of flips the script on classic vampire lore, right? Humans usually associated with sunlight, they're now seeking shelter underground.
And vampires, creatures of the night, they're losing their power, their dominance.
Right. And in the middle of all this tension, we have Princess Anya, and she's dealing with her own internal conflict. Her mother was human.
Oh, wow, that adds a whole other layer to this.
Yeah, and she carries this locket with her mother's portrait inside.
Yeah.
It's like a constant reminder of her heritage and the complex relationship between these two species.
So she's not just a vampire princess. She's someone who understands both sides of this conflict. That must make this whole situation even more difficult for her.
Absolutely. She's caught between two worlds, trying to figure out where her loyalties lie and how to navigate a path forward when there are no easy answers.
It's a classic struggle, isn't it? Duty versus personal connection. I'm curious, do you think the locket symbolizes something more than just Anya's personal history? Could it be a hint at a deeper connection between humans and vampires? Maybe even a shared origin?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
And one, the sources leave open to interpretation. But it definitely adds another layer to Anya's character.
Right, she's not just a stereotypical vampire princess. She's a complex individual grappling with some really tough choices.
Exactly. And it's within this conflict that the possibility of a bargain emerges. The humans, they offer sanctuary in their underground bunkers. They've developed technology to create artificial sunlight, and they even hint at the possibility of a cure for vampirism.
Wow, so they're bringing a lot to the table. What about the vampires? What are they offering?
Well, the vampires offer their knowledge of the shadows. They've been living in darkness for centuries. They know how to navigate it, how to fight the creatures that lurk there.
So it's like each side holds a piece of the puzzle.
Right. But it's not presented as a simple solution. There's a deep mistrust between them. Centuries of animosity. It's a fragile alliance born out of necessity.
You can practically feel the tension in that room as they try to negotiate a way to survive.
Yeah, and it's interesting how this bargain highlights the strengths and weaknesses of each side. The humans, with their technology and ingenuity, they're looking for a scientific solution.
And the vampires, with their ancient knowledge and connection to the darkness, they offer a more instinctual, primal approach.
It's almost like these two approaches represent different aspects of what it means to be human. The logical versus the intuitive, the scientific versus the spiritual.
That's a great point. And the question is, can they bridge that gap? Can they find a way to combine their strengths and create a truly symbiotic relationship?
Well, that's what we're going to explore as we delve deeper into this story. But first, we need to talk about another layer of complexity that the sources introduce. These terrifying creatures that are emerging from the darkness.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned them earlier, the ones that are thriving as the world gets darker.
Right, they're described as bat-like,
Hmm.
but they're evolving, becoming more monstrous with each passing day.
It's like the dying sun is accelerating natural selection, pushing these creatures to adapt and become more predatory in this new environment.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it, if this is happening to these creatures, what kind of changes are happening within the vampires and humans themselves?
Are they evolving as well? On a physical or even a psychological level?
It's a chilling thought, and one that we'll definitely be unpacking as we continue our deep dive into this world of robots vs. vampires.
This is getting really good. I can't wait to see what happens next. Welcome back to Robots vs. Vampires. It's really fascinating to think about how this dying sun is pushing both humans and vampires to their limits, making them reconsider what it means to survive.
Absolutely, and we left off with Princess Anya delving into those forbidden vampire archives, uncovering this knowledge about how ancient vampires adapted to a world of darkness.
Hmm.
And it's not pretty. It involves tapping into their most primal instincts, embracing a side of themselves that most vampires find repulsive.
Yeah, this is where the story takes a darker turn, both literally and figuratively. The sources describe these ancient techniques as a kind of transformation, a physical and psychological shift that makes them, enhances their senses and abilities, but also makes them more monstrous.
It's like they're being forced to confront the very thing they've been trying to distance themselves from for centuries, their predatory nature. It makes you wonder, if embracing those instincts is the key to survival, does it also mean losing a part of their humanity?
It's a question that Anya grapples with throughout the story. She's not just making a strategic decision, it's a deeply personal struggle. And the sources really drive that home by describing the transformation itself in vivid detail.
Yeah, they don't shy away from the grotesque aspects. Their bodies become more angular, their features more predatory. They're losing some of their elegance, their sophistication, as they embrace this raw, more primal version of themselves.
It's a stark contrast to that traditional image of vampires as sophisticated and alluring. Right. Here, they're becoming something more akin to wild animals driven by instinct and a need to survive. So, how do you think the humans will react to this? Will they see it as a betrayal, like a sign that the vampires are becoming the very monsters they feared?
That's a good point. This alliance is already built on a foundation of mistrust. If the vampires start to look and act more monstrous, it could easily shatter any hope of cooperation.
And it's also worth considering how this transformation affects the vampires themselves. The sources describe their senses becoming incredibly sharp. Like Anya, for example, she can hear a whisper from across the hall, smell a drop of blood from miles away. It's both exhilarating and terrifying.
It's like they're experiencing the world in a completely different way, a heightened reality that's both a blessing and a curse. What do you think? As someone who's, studied human perception, is there any scientific basis for this kind of sensory enhancement? Could it be a result of some kind of neurological or physiological adaptation?
That's a question that's always fascinated me. While the level of sensory enhancement described in the story is likely exaggerated for, dramatic effect, there are real-world examples of animals adapting to extreme environments by developing heightened senses, like bats using echolocation or deep-sea creatures evolving bioluminescence. It's not entirely outside the realm of possibility that humans, or vampires in this case, could undergo similar adaptations under extreme pressure.
That's really interesting. It makes you wonder if there are untapped potentials within our own senses just waiting to be unlocked by necessity.
Absolutely. And it makes Anya's choice even more compelling. She's not just choosing a path for survival, she's choosing a new way of experiencing the world, one that comes with both immense power and a heavy price.
Right, and it's within this context that the sources introduced the first major attack by those terrifying creatures we discussed earlier. Remember, they've been evolving too, becoming more predatory, more monstrous as the world plunges into darkness.
And what's interesting is that this attack doesn't come from the humans, as many of the vampire elders feared. It comes from the depths, a swarming wave of these creatures driven by instinct and hunger.
So instead of turning on each other, the humans and vampires are forced to confront a common enemy. Do you think this shared threat will ultimately strengthen their alliance or deepen the divide?
That's the central question, isn't it? Will they see this as a chance to unite against a common foe, or will fear and suspicion drive them further apart? The sources leave that open to interpretation, but it's clear that this attack marks a turning point in their relationship.
It also highlights the effectiveness of Anya's decision to embrace the ancient techniques. The vampires, empowered by their heightened senses and abilities, they're able to fight off the creatures. But the battle is brutal, leaving them wounded and shaken.
And it's during this battle that we see a shift in Anya's chancellor. Remember, he was initially horrified by her decision to embrace the monstrous path. But as they fight side by side, he starts to see the necessity of it, the power that comes with tapping into those primal instincts.
So even the most staunch traditionalists are starting to recognize the need for change for adaptation. It's a subtle but significant shift in perspective.
It also highlights the fact that sometimes the most difficult choices, the ones that challenge our core beliefs, are the ones that ultimately save us.
Welcome back to Robots vs. Vampires. We're exploring this world where a dying sun has thrown everything into chaos, forcing vampires and humans to confront not only their own mortality, but also the monstrous lurking in the shadows and within themselves.
It's fascinating how the sources weave together this apocalyptic event with a deeply personal journey for Princess Anya. She's not just fighting for survival, she's wrestling with the very definition of what it means to be a vampire in this new world.
And the choices she's making aren't easy. By embracing these ancient techniques, she's challenging centuries of tradition, facing resistance from her own kind, and pushing herself to limits she never thought possible.
And it's not just about physical changes, is it? The sources describe her senses becoming so acute that she can experience the world on a whole new level. She can feel the vibrations of the earth, taste subtle changes in the air, perceive the faintest heartbeat in a crowded room.
Yeah, it's almost like she's transcending her physical limitations, tapping into a primal awareness that connects her to the very essence of life and death. It makes me wonder, does this heightened awareness make her more or less human?
That's a question that really resonates throughout the story, wouldn't you say? On one hand, she's becoming more powerful, more in tune with her predatory instincts. On the other hand, she's also becoming more sensitive to the suffering around her, the fragility of life in this dying world.
The sources don't shy away from the darkness that comes with this power. Anya can feel the fear of her prey, the desperation of her enemies, the weight of a world teetering on the brink of collapse. It's a lot to carry, even for someone like her.
And this is where the story goes beyond a simple battle for survival. It becomes an exploration of what it means to wield power responsibly, to confront the darkness within and without, and to find a way to retain one's humanity even as the world around you becomes more monstrous.
The sources also hint at a growing connection between Anya and the human leader, a scientist who's been working on creating artificial sunlight. It's a tentative, fragile connection, but it suggests that maybe, just maybe, there's hope for a future where vampires and humans can coexist not just as allies, but as something more.
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? To imagine a world where these two species, with their unique strengths and perspectives, could find common ground and build a new kind of society. But it's not a given. The story ends with Anya standing on a precipice, staring out into the encroaching darkness.
And the question that hangs in the air is, will she use her newfound power to protect both her kind and humanity, or will she succumb to the darkness that threatens to consume them all? It's a powerful image that leaves us pondering the choices we might make in a similar situation.
This is what makes these kinds of stories so compelling. They challenge us to think about our own values, our own potential for both good and evil, and the choices we make in the face of overwhelming odds.
So as we wrap up this episode of Robots vs. Vampires, we encourage you to continue the conversation. What would you do in Anya's shoes? What sacrifices would you make to survive? And how would you define humanity in a world where the lines between monster and human are constantly shifting? Don't forget to rate and follow the show for more awesome stories that explore the boundaries of reality and the unexpected twists and turns that make sci-fi and fantasy so captivating. Until next time, keep those imaginations firing, and remember, sometimes the greatest battles are fought within a